It's 2 a.m. And there you are, staring at your phone like it holds the answer to your heartbreak. Yesterday she said she loved you. Today she's colder than a stranger. One moment she wants a strong man to lead, the next she's tearing down every decision you make. You start questioning yourself, your worth, your sanity. But let me be clear, you're not crazy. You're just trapped in an emotional battlefield disguised as love. I'm going to tell you exactly when it's time to walk away, and why staying will quietly destroy the man you're trying to become. Here's the first red flag most men ignore: the fatherless pattern. I'm not saying every woman without a strong father figure is broken, but many carry an invisible wound, a desperate need for control. Yeah. Without masculine stability growing up, they equate surrender with danger. Vulnerability feels like exposure. So they fight, not for love, but for power. I once coached a man whose girlfriend was raised by a single mother. Every time he made a simple choice, where to eat, what movie to watch, she'd challenge it. Not because she cared, but because letting him lead triggered her deepest fear: losing control. She'd say, "Be a man," while crushing every trace of his leadership. That's not love. That's psychological warfare wrapped in affection. See, the modern relationship isn't a partnership anymore, and it's often a power struggle wearing a mask of equality. They want a man who leads, but only when it feels convenient. They crave the image of strength without surrendering an ounce of control. It's hypocrisy camouflaged as empowerment. They want to say they respect you, as long as you never make them feel small. True equality isn't competition, it's cooperation. Two people rowing in the same direction. But now it's become a scoreboard. Who earns more? Who sacrifices more? Who's winning? The result? Love turns into rivalry. Intimacy replaced by comparison. And here's the silent killer: emotional inconsistency. Monday, she's madly in love. Tuesday, she's distant. Wednesday, she wants to move in. Thursday, she needs space. That's not love. That's instability wearing perfume. You can't build peace on shifting sand, yet the biggest mistake men make? Chasing after chaos. When she pulls away, you text first. You call. You beg. You try to fix things, but the moment you chase, you lose power. You teach her that her absence is worth more than your self-respect. Remember this: the man who values his dignity over her approval always wins in the long run. Toxic dynamics feed on imbalance. The double standards are endless. You're late, you're disrespectful. She's late, you're controlling. You forget something, you're careless. She forgets, and somehow it's still your fault. You're not in a relationship. You're in court without a lawyer. Some people don't communicate. They litigate. Every conversation becomes a trial they must win. You say, "I feel hurt," and suddenly you're defending something you said 3 years ago. That's not love. That's manipulation dressed as logic. They don't want resolution, they want dominance. And the scariest part? The illusion. They've built a fantasy version of themselves. The perfect partner, the good one, while acting out every toxic behavior in the book. The moment you expose the truth, you become the villain in their story. So pay attention to the power grab. The moment someone feels they completely control your emotions, your choices, your peace, it's over. Because love cannot exist where power is the goal. Sometimes the most stoic thing a man can do is to stop explaining himself, stand up, and walk away. Not because he stopped caring, but because he finally remembered who he was before the chaos. Their allure fades. Tension, mystery, and a hint of unpredictability are necessary for desire. However, once they understand that you'll put up with anything, the chemistry ends when they are positive you won't go. They may remain for convenience or comfort, but the true allure is no longer there. You end up being furniture. Practical, but uninteresting. Following a breakup, their actions are motivated by fleeting emotions rather than reason. They detest you one day and miss you terribly the next. These are emotional responses that lack consistency rather than well-thought-out acts. They will block you by midday after sending lengthy texts of remorse at 3 in the morning. This isn't affection. It's real-time emotional instability manifested. Most people are unaware of the physiological change that occurs after adultery. There is a real molecular relationship that forms when two people become intimate. Their emotional allegiance abruptly changes. The immediate sense of remoteness, it's biological as well as psychological. They have a physical link with another person. Furthermore, no amount of discussion will alter that chemistry. Weak reactions to betrayal have become commonplace in modern society. Emotional transgressions are treated as minor annoyances. Everybody makes errors. No one is flawless. Perfection isn't the point here. Respect is at issue. You're teaching children that your boundaries are recommendations rather than demands when you put up with treachery. Strong reactions to disrespect are not harmful. It is essential to preserving any feeling of self-worth. The dysfunction cycle, the ignoring, the seeking, and the dramatic reconciliation can become addictive for both partners. It produces dopamine surges that lead to addiction. You are no longer in love. You rely on the emotional roller coaster physiologically. True love is safe and dependable. It's not love if you need drama all the time to feel connected. Addiction is that. People in good health have what I refer to as moral fuses, which are internal restraints that keep them from going too far. However, some persons are totally devoid of these. Despite the fact that it feels bad, they continue to flirt. They only give up if they risk being discovered. Betrayal is impossible without internal moral discipline. Waiting for the ideal opportunity is inevitable. One cannot trust someone who regularly rewrites history, lies about little matters, or contradicts themselves. This goes beyond a single error or miscommunication. It has to do with patterns. Believe someone when they demonstrate that they are at ease with dishonesty. Ignoring them won't change their character, but it might momentarily alter their conduct. Unconsciously, people frequently mimic the patterns of their parents' relationships. They'll probably act in the same way if their mother used manipulation or incited conflict to get attention. It's not deliberate, it is pre-programmed. They are acting out a screenplay they were taught as kids. Accepting this does not imply understanding it. You are not their therapist, and you are unable to mend the scars from their early years. Some people only experience life during times of distress. For them, stability is death. They will fabricate issues, instigate altercations, and produce drama. Anything to arouse their desire for intense emotion. They are attempting to create problems rather than find solutions to existing ones. They get nervous at peace. They become restless when it's calm. Like everyone else, they require turmoil. Keep an eye on the projection pattern. They will pretend to be the victim when they generate issues. You start acting aggressively when it comes to establishing limits. You're controlling in order to anticipate consistency. You are abusive if you don't put up with their chaos. The complete inversion occurs when the one doing the harm portrays themselves as the victim. Emotional storms prevent logic from functioning. When someone is acting only on emotions and defensive narratives, it is impossible to argue with them. It's similar to attempting to use poetry to solve a math issue. The wrong tool for the job is what you're using. Your rational justifications simply serve as more ammunition for their victimization narrative when someone is experiencing emotional turmoil. When you start taking charge of their emotional control, you fall into the caretaker trap. You apologize, explain, and lift their spirits all the time. However, this is what takes place. You become their emotional janitor instead of their companion. Additionally, no one finds their janitor attractive. They will respect you less the more you attempt to correct them. They get more chaotic the more you put up with their craziness. Some people were brought up to feel that the world ought to respect their emotions. They don't modify their expectations when reality doesn't align with them. They penalize the real world. They will emotionally punish you for FA. They are yearning for the dopamine rush that comes from confrontation and resolution. Instead of being their adored, you become their drug. They will follow you around nonstop, but it won't be romantic. Addiction is looking for a fix. Many partnerships unintentionally replicate the patterns of childhood. Their father is replaced by you, and they are reenacting unresolved disputes from decades past. You're not fighting over what to have for supper. The disagreement between their parents dates back to 1987. A fight that began before you met them is unwinnable. Whoever exhibits emotional detachment initially takes charge in poisonous relationships. Being upset stops being a sincere emotion and instead becomes a power move. It's emotional manipulation done strategically. You must now pursue me since I'm hurt. You must now demonstrate your affection for me since I need space. In a struggle for dominance, every emotional display turns into a strategic move. Artificial reliance is produced via the seesaw dynamic. They back off when you chase after them. They follow you when you back off. There is only interest in the space between you. It's not affection, it's a psychological pattern where distance is necessary for attraction. They become disinterested the instant you are totally present. They start to care the instant you go. Ignoring someone may help you get their attention again, but it won't build real connection or rebuild trust. Conflict is sometimes confused with passion and absence with affection. They mistakenly believe that the intensity of the chase indicates love, but it's actually just their abandonment traumas being triggered. Emotional manipulation cannot serve as the basis for a good relationship. When someone mixes closeness with passion, they are emotionally illiterate. They believe there cannot be a relationship if there is no drama. They see fighting as a form of passion. Chemistry is how chaos feels. They have never experienced what healthy love truly feels like. Therefore, they will provoke trouble just to feel anything. They are unable to perceive the entire range of authentic connection because they are emotionally colorblind. The biggest error is attempting to make sense of essentially nonsensical actions. Where there are only reactions, you're searching for causes. In chaos, you're looking for patterns. You're attempting to comprehend something that cannot be comprehended because it is not derived from cognition. It results from harm. Give up attempting to make sense of incomprehension. Some people are just not suitable for long-term partnerships. Fixing them, healing them, or teaching them how to love is not your responsibility. It is your responsibility to identify the trends and take precautions. Someone who doesn't desire to be rescued cannot be saved. Someone who refuses to learn cannot be taught. A person's mental health cannot be loved. Here's how you tell when it's time to go. When regulating their emotions takes up more of your energy than actually living your life. When it seems like a bomb is being defused every day. When you are unable to recall the last time you were at ease in your own house. When you have to be really cautious in your own connection. When their presence causes discomfort rather than calm. The realization that you are not in a relationship is the turning point. You are engaged in a psychological conflict. Every exchange is calculated. Every discussion might turn into a brawl. Every quiet period is merely the prelude to the next upheaval. Love isn't that. That is combat. Furthermore, you cannot defeat someone who is fighting themselves. The discussion of limits is straightforward. You require them, and they will constantly be violated by toxic people. Not infrequently, not by mistake, not often, and not on purpose. They will push every boundary and test every limit before accusing you of possessing them. A person cannot respect you if they are unable to respect your boundaries. Because you cannot be loved by someone who lacks respect for you. The element of self-respect is essential. You are reminding yourself that you are less valuable than peace each time you put up with inappropriate behavior. By continuing to put up with unacceptable treatment, you are acknowledging that this is what you deserve. It's not only that they treat you disrespectfully, you are being disrespectful to yourself by remaining. In a partnership, power shouldn't be about dominance. It ought to be about respect and cooperation between the two parties. You have two options, though, if you're with someone who views relationships as power struggles. Participate in the conflict or leave. Fighting only makes the dysfunction worse. The only way to win is to walk away. Being cold or cruel is not the goal of the distancing process. It has to do with protecting oneself. You're not leaving them behind. You're preserving yourself. You're not going to give up. You're going with peace. Leaving dough. Explain why their actions are inappropriate. It simply is. You don't have to defend your desire for peace. It is a fundamental human need. To keep your sanity intact, you don't need permission. It is a fundamental right of yours. This is what occurs when you depart. They will go through all of the various emotions and cycles. Threats, promises of transformation, bargaining, love bombing, and rage. This change isn't real. Panic at losing control is what it is. Suddenly, the person who couldn't care less about treating you well can't survive without you. Don't fall for it. It's not affection. The desire to preserve the status quo is desperate. Particularly alluring are the promises of change. I'll attend counseling. Now I get it. I will never do it once more. However, genuine change requires years of persistent effort rather than frantic vows made out of fear of being abandoned. Change can be promised by anyone. Few people really put in the effort. Furthermore, you are not need to wait around to find out what category they fit into. There's a lot of social pressure to find a solution. People will tell you that no one is perfect and that relationships require effort. Yes, but there is a distinction between toxic dysfunction and typical interpersonal difficulties. It's good to work on communication. Not understanding the difference is working on surviving emotional abuse. The involvement from friends and relatives can be too much to handle. They will offer judgments, suggestions, and opinions, but they are not experiencing your reality. They are unaware of the mayhem when they awaken. The anxiousness is not felt by them. They are not emotionally burdened. You must make your choice on your own experience rather than what other people think. The justification of financial entanglement traps a lot of individuals. Together we have a lease, we share accounts. It's too difficult to leave. But what's the price of your sanity? How much does your peace cost? Money is manageable. Damage to mental health is more difficult to repair. Avoid being subjected to psychological agony by logistics. Though frequently misinterpreted, the children's consideration is serious. It doesn't help the kids to stay in a dysfunctional relationship. It tells kids that love looks like this. By observing you, they are picking up connection patterns. What are you hoping they will learn? That self-respect entails avoiding harmful circumstances, or that love entails suffering? People stay in unhealthy relationships because they are afraid of being alone. What if I don't find anyone else? What if this is the best that can be found? However, being by yourself and content is far superior to being in a relationship and agitated. Being alone is a fleeting emotion. The damage from staying in toxic relationships can be lasting. The illusion of sunk costs is potent. We've spent 5 years together. I've spent a lot of time in dysfunction, but that doesn't translate into function. Staying won't give you back those years. All you're doing is piling on more years of lost time. Reduce your losses. A time of serenity is typically when the epiphany occurs. When you're away from them even briefly and you feel your shoulders relax, realizing that you have been holding your breath for months. When you recall what it's like to be anxiety-free, you can see just what this relationship has been doing to you from that contrast. After departing, there is a significant recovery period. You'll question yourself, miss them, and only think back on the enjoyable moments. This is typical. Your brain is actually purging itself of the addiction to emotional upheaval. Remain resilient. When the realization dawns, you'll question why you stayed for so long. The ability to recognize patterns that you acquire is priceless. After going through everything, you'll be able to recognize the warning signs sooner. You are aware of the trends, strategies, and techniques for manipulating emotions. You get protected from unhealthy relationships in the future. This traumatic event serves as your shield. During the reconstruction stage, you relearn who you are. You recall your favorite things before the mayhem. You get back in touch with friends you had cut off. You go after interests you had previously given up on. You come to terms with how much of yourself you have sacrificed in an attempt to control someone else's dysfunction. The raising of the standards is both required and natural. You regard peace differently after going through a period of turbulence. You value respect more after enduring contempt. You don't have very high expectations. Finally, they are suitable. Nobody should persuade you to lower them once more. The approach to future relationships entirely shifts. You're no longer yearning for intensity and drama. You're looking for harmony, security, and respect for one another. You realize that true love is stable, steady, and peaceful. Constant crisis management is not necessary. You're battling 3 generations of dysfunction, not just their problems. The adaptation to narcissism is real. Some people form these tendencies as a result of being treated like royalty as youngsters rather than trauma. Every demand was fulfilled, every tantrum was tolerated, and every emotion was confirmed as true. They discovered that the world ought to accommodate their feelings. They now look to you to give them the same unrestricted support that their parents gave them. However, they are no longer a child and you are not their parent. It is tiresome how they inflate the urgency of every problem. Everything is urgent. Every emotion is important. Every necessity arises instantly. They are unable to distinguish between serious emergencies and small annoyances. Your nervous system becomes exhausted from being on guard all the time. You're constantly in fight or flight mode, which over time actually ruins your brain. You're aging too quickly due to the stress hormones that are constantly entering your system. Here's the real deal. A healthy connection cannot be established with an unhealthy individual. You cannot bring stability to someone who is devoted to chaos. A war addict is not someone you can find peace with. Walking away is sometimes the most loving thing you can do for each other. The decision-making process is straightforward. Does this connection make your life better or worse? After meeting them, do you feel better or worse? Are you getting bigger or smaller? Are you losing yourself or growing more like yourself? You can learn all you need to know from the responses. The action step is straightforward but challenging. It's time to go if you see these trends are worn out by the confusion, have tried everything, and nothing has changed. Not after the holidays, not next month, not when it's convenient, but right now. Because you will need to recover from the harm caused by each day you are there. First and foremost, you have a duty to yourself. You cannot drown alongside someone in order to save them. Allowing someone to injure you won't help them get better. You cannot sacrifice your calm to solve someone else's chaos. Protecting your own mental health and well-being is your top priority. This is the last message. You are neither weak, self-centered, or a failure if you leave. It demonstrates that you value your own health enough to take precautions for it. It makes you a person who finds it difficult to accept what is not acceptable. It shapes you into someone who, even in difficult situations, prefers peace to chaos. You should be in a relationship that makes you happy, not anxious. You should have a companion who enhances rather than detracts from your tranquility. You are worthy of a love that feels secure rather than perilous. You should quit and look for something better if your current relationship doesn't offer that. Knowing that you're not leaving them gives you the courage to go. You are making your own decision. Love is something you're not giving up on. You're abandoning dysfunction. You're not weak if you leave. You have the strength to see what needs to be done and carry it out. I'd like to talk to you. In your personal relationship, did you see any patterns? When did you suddenly realize something? What ultimately gave you the courage to depart? Or what's preventing you from moving? Leave a comment with your tale. Seeing those who have been on this journey before us might sometimes give us the confidence to start along this route ourselves. Music,